Hey everyone, see, I told you I'd be live in 2 seconds. How are you? My name is Jamey Prezzi. I'm a real estate agent in Miami and Miami Beach. And today I'm going to talk to you about what you need to know about condominium financing. And this is very different from when you purchase a property as a single family home property. I am really just talking about buying in a building. So I'm just going to wait 2 seconds for everyone to come in. By the way, make sure you wash your hands because it is a crazy flu season out there. We have been crazy sick over the last couple of weeks. It was really bad. And little one finally just went back to school today. It was very tedious. Oh, and then a bunch of people did ask me about my computer. Yes, Dell came out and they replaced my hard drive yesterday. And so far, fingers crossed, it's okay. We'll see in a few days what happens. Okay, so I am talking about purchasing a property in a condominium building. So the reason why this is very different than buying a single family home is because the bank also wants to qualify the building. And obviously the building, we don't really have so much control over, right? If you are a buyer and you know your credit's bad, you can work on making your credit better, or you can work on getting a better down payment, or work on whatever it is that you need to do as a buyer to improve your personal situation, your financial situation, to make you more eligible to buy. But if you are buying in a condominium building, or there's a building that you're super interested in, we don't really have so much control about what's going on in that building. And sometimes we don't know deeply what's going on in that building until the building completes a condo questionnaire that's sent over by the bank. Now, I will talk to you very quickly about a few things that you need to know. It could possibly go over your head because it's super tedious. If this is something that you're interested in learning more about, please call me at 305-793-8965. Direct message me, text me, whatever. And if you're working with me as your buyer, as if I'm your agent right now and you are my buyer, and I talked about this and you didn't understand it, call me again and let's go over it again, because even some people in our business don't understand it that well. You have to do a lot of transactions to really understand what can happen, and you have to sometimes have bad things happen to understand why that happened and how to make that not happen again. We've been in business a long time. We've worked with, hundreds of buyers. I've seen hundreds of transactions. I understand what happens when people need financing in buildings. And so sometimes I'm a little bit jaded and I'm a little bit overprotective of our buyers because I know what can happen, and I want to make sure that you are protected through the process. I want to make sure that when you go under contract on a property, that you can actually purchase that property. So to start with, you better make sure that you know the lender very well and their experience in doing condominium financing in our area. That is number one key, most important thing, because I have been on the other side of a transaction where I was a seller's agent and the lender said, yes, 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 we can do everything. And the lenders are not experienced sometimes, and they can create bad situations, including possibly losing the deposit if they're not experienced in this area and they issue loan approvals and then the buyer is not approved. And when I say people who are experienced in this area, they don't necessarily have to be a lender right here, but they really need to understand sort of some things to work through in advance and mitigate issues in advance, so that when they're issuing a loan approval and your deposit goes hard, that they can actually close that loan on the closing date. That's a whole nother story. I don't mean to scare you, but it's just important that you work with people who know what they're doing, because it's important, because it can put your deposit at stake. Okay. I think I just said that 3 times, but it's serious. Okay. So the first thing they're going to want to know is how you're purchasing the property. Because if it's your primary residence, you have to think about sort of their risk. They know if it's your primary residence, if something, God forbid, happens, you're probably going to try and hold on to that property. The next level is typically a second home. So if everything came crashing down, you're probably going to keep your primary residence, but you may give up the second home. And then the third thing is investment properties, which is sort of, that's the most riskiest in many situations for lenders, at least with our clients. I know the lenders we work with, that's what they say. So they want to know, why is it, is it a primary residence, a second home, or an investment property? And then from there, what kind of loan product are you getting? I have doctors who get very specific loan products, and the banks, it's called a portfolio loan product, and the banks don't resell those products on a second market. So they hold on to those loan products, so they allow a little bit more flexibility for those doctor loan products for the borrower. So there's a lot of little details that we have to take into consideration when you are getting condominium financing. So what happens is the bank determines what's the product, what kind of buyer are you, how are you intending to use that property, and then they send over, when you're under contract, they send over a condo questionnaire to the management company. That management company fills that condo questionnaire out, and then it gets sent back to the underwriter, and the underwriter reviews and sees if the building is in good condition. Now, sometimes there are different, things that they will be a little bit more relaxed on than others, but ultimately it's their call if they're going to give you financing. And I have heard that they put as much weight on the condo questionnaire as they do on the borrower. And again, you can't really control how much the budget is in the building, how many renters are in the building, if there's any litigation going on in the building. So some of these things, like for instance, if I have a buyer who's interested in a few different buildings, I always go and see what closed in that building over the last year and see if there was any financing done, because I can see that. And then I call through those agents. This is a tip for agents too, if you have buyers who need financing. I call through those agents and find out if there were any issues. Were they primary, second, or investment, who did the loan? So I always like to know what's going on so that I can sort of create a situation where I can give a successful outcome to our buyer as much as possible. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, there's only so much control we have as agents, but sometimes it always requires, actually not sometimes, a lot of due diligence in advance so we can make sure that you're looking at properties in the right building. And also, like I'm talking about the control thing, sometimes 1 month the building may have a lot of money in the budget, and the next month they may not, or stuff can change from month to month, so it's not always a done deal. And even if they got finance, if someone else got financing a couple of months ago. But the most important thing to know is that you need to work with a lender who knows what they're doing, so that they do a lot of this work at the beginning, so you're not hanging out 2 days before closing and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, we can't give you financing because now we just decided to review this. You want to make sure you're working with a team who does all of that stuff way in advance, okay? I think that's all I wanted to say. It's tedious. It can possibly go over your head again. It's a lot. And honestly, a lot of times people say to me, oh, now I see what you were talking about. I didn't understand until you actually, until we went under contract and did this whole thing. Wow, that's insane. It's so tedious, and it is. So that's why you have to make sure you're working with people who know what they're doing, so they take care of you and they're, have their experience behind them so that they can best guide you. Okay? If you have more questions, always feel free to call me. My name is Jamey Prezzi. I'm a real estate agent in Miami and Miami Beach, and I'm always available to answer any of your questions. Have a good day.